On the first day of the U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran, something strange appeared on the airwaves. A mysterious shortwave radio broadcast, a man's voice calmly reading random number sequences in Persian. Radio enthusiasts first picked it up on February 28th, the first day of the war. The broadcast follows a loose pattern, a string of numbers read aloud for 2 rounds, then a pause, then the Persian word for attention, repeated 3 times, then the numbers start again. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. No one knows exactly where the signal is coming from, but radio enthusiasts have narrowed it down to somewhere in Western Europe. 5 days into the war, things got even stranger. Someone started jamming the signal. Electronic noise suddenly flooded the frequency, making the numbers nearly impossible to hear. But the broadcast didn't stop, it just moved to a different frequency. RFERL independently recorded the transmission on March 10th, meaning it has been broadcasting around 2 weeks, more or less daily. So what is it? The most common explanation is something called a number station, an old-school Cold War spy tool, a shortwave radio broadcast used to send encrypted messages to intelligence agents around the world. Anyone can listen to the numbers, but without the decoder, the message is essentially impossible to understand. Aiken Fernandez, who's considered a guru on the subject of number stations, says it's absolutely unbreakable. The number keys are perfectly random, and figuring it out mathematically wouldn't really work either. And even if you translate them into words, the message would likely still make no sense without the right decoder key. Okay, that's the first thing. What about the jamming? Who's jamming the signal and why? So the kind of interference being used here is called a bubble jammer. Basically, it drowns out the signal so the transmission is impossible to understand. Historically, this kind of jamming was used by governments trying to block foreign broadcasts. During the Cold War, Soviet bloc countries regularly jammed broadcasts from the BBC, Deutsche Welle, or Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, which were beaming uncensored news and information into the Eastern Bloc. These days, the Persian language broadcasts, the BBC, and Radio Free Europe's Radio Farda are also being jammed by the Iranian government on a similar frequency. So if Tehran was responsible for this mysterious Persian number signal, it's pretty unlikely that Tehran will be jamming its own signal. That brings us back to the original question: who's behind the number station broadcast? Could it be the United States sending coded messages to agents inside Iran? Or maybe it's Israel? Or how about Turkey, which is no fan of the Iranian government? Then it gets even muddier. ABC News reports that the US government had sent an alert to law enforcement agencies about an intercepted encrypted transmission. The transmission could, quote, be intended to activate or provide instructions to pre-position sleeper assets operating outside the originating country. ABC quoted the alert as saying. The CIA did not respond to requests for comment. So for now, the signal remains a mystery. What do you think? Let us know in the comments.
So, what is this about? This is interesting. This is what happened afterwards. Now, they don't know what this is from, and nobody's talking about it. You know, this is the first I've heard of it, but this video was a shock and awe to me. Do you have it?
Yeah. This is it.
Play.
Listen to this. On the first day of the U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran, something strange appeared on the airwaves. A mysterious shortwave radio broadcast, a man's voice calmly reading random number sequences in Persian. Radio enthusiasts first picked it up on February 28th, the first day of the war. The broadcast follows a loose pattern, a string of numbers read aloud for 2 rounds, then a pause, then the Persian word for attention, repeated 3 times, then the numbers start again. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. No one knows exactly where the signal is coming from, but radio enthusiasts have narrowed it down to somewhere in Western Europe. 5 days into the war, things got even stranger. Someone started jamming the signal. Electronic noise suddenly flooded the frequency, making the numbers nearly impossible to hear. But the broadcast didn't stop, it just moved to a different frequency. RFERL independently recorded the transmission on March 10th, meaning it has been broadcasting around 2 weeks, more or less daily. So what is it? The most common explanation is something called a number station, an old-school Cold War spy tool, a shortwave radio broadcast used to send encrypted messages to intelligence agents around the world. Anyone can listen to the numbers, but without the decoder, the message is essentially impossible to understand. Aiken Fernandez, who's considered a guru on the subject of number stations, says it's absolutely unbreakable. The number keys are perfectly random, and figuring it out mathematically wouldn't really work either. And even if you translate them into words, the message would likely still make no sense without the right decoder key. Okay, that's the first thing.
Pause.
What about the jamming? Who's jamming?
Okay. Do you remember when I said there was an individual that was in, I have to be very careful now. Do you remember I said I saw an individual that was high up in that was a rat in government? And I said he was talking to somebody in Europe and they were relating it to Iran. Do you remember that? And I said it was a decoder key and they would write the numbers down, but it was a perfect sequence and it had to be the right letter and they would hear it and they were able to communicate to somebody in Europe and they would send that to Iran. Does anybody remember that? Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I said they sent the message.
Yeah, was it free? Yeah, something like that.
Yes. Do you remember who?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to be careful now because of how accurate this is. Folks, this is exactly what we saw. What this man is talking about is what I warned you, that there was a rat that was delivering the message from the tops to a message in Europe. And in Europe was translating to another one. And it was a three-way. Boop, 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 and it went all around. And then I saw it was I said they're activating the cells for a D-Day on a specific day for a D-Day. And it was not a strike for strike like a punch. It was a fatal blow. They said we must completely wound to take out the eagle so we can get rid of Israel. Does anybody remember this? For distraction in their own soil will be a distraction to deter them, for they will be so wounded in their own home soil that we can finally finish off Israel. Does anybody remember that? And I saw these codes going over the internet. But I said it's old technology. It's not your cell phone. It's hidden. And it was telephone to telephone. I saw it in the spirit. Do you hear what this man is saying? That's what they found. But they can't tell what the code is. I said, you can't tell the decipher. Does anybody remember that? Do you have the video to prove it?
Yeah, I believe I did. Yeah, amazing.
It gave me, when I found it, I said, Braden, this is what the Lord said. This is what we're praying against. This is what I try to tell you. There's a rat. There's a rat. Play the rat, B. Do you have it? Is there a way to find it? I know I'm putting a lot on you. I'm sorry. But I want them to see how accurate things are. We were prophesying this clear back in 2025, the beginning of 2025 for. Dinah has to look through her book. Go ahead and play the rest of the message, and you can find it while you're watching, so there's no dead space. We want them to stick around.
The signal and why. So the kind of interference being used here is called a bubble jammer. Basically, it drowns out the signal, so the transmission is impossible to understand. Historically, this kind of jamming was used by governments trying to block foreign broadcasts. During the Cold War, Soviet bloc countries regularly jammed broadcasts from the BBC, Deutsche Welle, or Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, which were beaming uncensored news and information into the Eastern Bloc. These days, the Persian language broadcasts, the BBC, and Radio Free Europe's Radio Farda are also being jammed by the Iranian government on a similar frequency. So if Tehran was responsible for this mysterious Persian number signal, it's pretty unlikely that Tehran...
Do y'all see? It's interesting. Old Cold War technology. I said it's not new stuff. I said they're using the old way of method of communication. They're not going to communicate through internet. And I said, the Lord said it's old school, like old, how carrier pigeons used to be used. Then how they used Morse code. And then he said how they used the Cherokee Indians in World War II. And he said they're using an old method, Brandon. And when I heard that, I thought, what kind of old method? Like Morse code again? Are they going to use that? What is it? Because I don't know all this stuff. But when I was praying into it, I keep praying and I keep seeing, it's like telephone to telephone. It's some kind, but as they add the code, and I saw this code, and I saw a guy using a decipher. And he had the code up here, and he would take and he would write out the decipher by number frequency.
What's the date here, Jeff?
What day is this?
Is this it? Is it October 5th?
Mm-hmm. When?
I think October 5th, 2025, but you're saying it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
We prayed into this, saying that all they want to make each one of these men have a polygraph test. 5,000 men go through a polygraph test. Yeah, this is old. Why? Because they got to figure out who's a rat. And there's rats. And I said, the man that I see has all these badges just like all that. Yeah, that's it. But it's more descriptive. It's fine. Keep going. And I said, there's somebody in there. And remember when I told you, did I say that publicly?
Yeah.
I did?
Yeah, about rats within the Pentagon.
I know, but what the man doing that in deciphering?
Code, yeah,
I made that because he's the only one. He's my scriber. He writes everything down. Taking a deciphered message and giving it to somebody in Europe. And then Europe was giving it to another person in another area. So as they were communicating, it was a three-way tie, delivering secret information out of the Pentagon into other countries. A rat within. And the Lord told us that. Remember? Like I said, I don't remember some of the stuff I make public, and I can't even believe I did that. But since I already did, it's there. But I go, okay, that was really probably not wise.
And if they try to hit us back, have you been briefed about how many Iran sleeper cells there could be inside the U.S. right now?
I have been, and a lot of people came in through Biden with this stupid open border. But we know where most of them are. We've got our eye on all of them, I think.
Is it dozens?
They came in through the open border policies of Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst president in the history of our country.
My family, hi, welcome to yet another one. So remember Brother Brandon, who became popular and famous due to the Trump assassination attempt prophecy.
I saw Trump rising up, and then I saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time.
It's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Deuteronomy 18:18-22. I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him.
They first took off his clothes. Then they took long leather thongs with steel pellets or lead pellets on the end and beat him across the back until he could hardly stand up. Then they put a crown of thorns on his brow and his face was bleeding. And they laughed at him and they spit on him. and they mocked him. And with one snap of his finger, 72,000 angels had already drawn their swords ready to come to his rescue and wipe this planet out of existence in the universe. And Jesus said, no, to this end was I born. He wasn't just another revolutionary. He wasn't just another hippie. He was not just another great man. He was God in the flesh. And oh, the ethics that he taught. Never a man spake like that man. When you get hit on one side, he says, turn the other cheek. He never said what to do after that. But he did say, forgive 70 times 7. Count that up. Jesus taught that we're to forgive. He taught a revolution in the way we're to live. He taught us that it wasn't just our outward actions that God judges, but it's the inward thoughts and intents. And he dragged and lifted and hauled that cross. He didn't squirm, he didn't yell, he didn't scream. He just took it and said, Lord, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. When he died on that cross, they nailed him, they put the nails in his hands. And you know what he said? Forgive them, they know not what they do. Forgive them. Could you forgive somebody that's putting nails in your hands and you know you didn't deserve it? Then look at the death he died. Did ever a man die like Jesus? The lightning flashed and the thunder roared and the earth began to shake. And even the soldiers confessed that this must be the Son of God. Anyone that can see Jesus on that cross and not be touched has a heart of stone. And then, on the cross, he said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And then he dropped his head and said, it's finished. What did he mean? He meant your plan of salvation was finished. God can now forgive you of all your sins because Jesus had finished God's plan for your salvation. Because you see, God knows every one of you by name. He has the hairs of your head numbered.